What's up, everybody? North Six family, how we doing? Welcome back to another episode of the Soft Dump in the Corner podcast, presented by North Six Sports. Episode number 24 today. If you followed the last couple series, we've posted the X Factors list, and we're going to continue that today. Our fourth of the four-part series. We did the Atlantic, we did the Metro, we did the Central. Now it's time to give you guys our X Factors of the Pacific Division out of the Western Conference to tidy that up just before the season starts. We're in for a good one here today. We also posted not long ago our bold predictions. Luke and I gave our top 5 bold predictions with a few bonus that you guys can listen in to see and put your future bets down because you know we're hitting them. Without further ado, on my right-hand side, in red, out of the red corner, Luke Pendlebury.
What's going on, everybody? Good to be back.
Good to be back. It's like we never left. We're always in your ear holes, baby. All right. You guys know the drill. Like you said, very similar to what we did with the Atlantic, the Metro, Central. We're giving through every team in alphabetical order our X factor. Not a superstar, but a player that's going to make a big difference to their team's success this season. I'm going to start you off here. I'll let you go first as per usual. Nice guy, Jordo.
Yeah.
I almost said Atlantic Division. Pacific Division. Here we go. Leading off with the Anaheim Ducks, your X Factor, Nutsy.
Stanley Cup contenders. Just kidding.
Stanley
Newly signed defenseman Jamie Drysdale, coming off a big injury last year. I believe it was a shoulder injury. He finally got his 3-year deal, just under $3 million total. Obviously, he's not played too many games and hasn't really shown his full potential as of yet. So this is more of a prove-it deal, I would think, for Anaheim. But he is a future number one defenseman on that team. I've liked the way he's played so far. He almost like a trial period at this time, so we haven't seen too much, but just the way he moves, even in the World Juniors, he looked really strong on that blue line. So this is going to be an opportunity for him to really showcase his skills, and hopefully he can turn into that number one defenseman that Anaheim is looking for.
Yeah, love it. I mean, like you touched on a few key things that I like to focus on and just kind of a up and coming potential player. Can you move the puck very well? Do you have that foot speed? Can you get yourself out of those tricky situations, especially when you're playing against opponents' top lines? He will be up there against some of those best players in the world. He's going to play McDavid 3-4 times a year. Draisaitl obviously too in that division. Sticking with the West, there's a lot of talent in the Western Conference. Obviously, the big bad defending Cup champs in Vegas, you're going to see quite a few times in a year as well. So, you're stuck with those top, point getters on every team. You're playing heavy minutes. How do you respond, right? Klingberg's no longer there, of course, with the Leafs this year. So that's a loss on that right-hand side in terms of who's going to be accountable for, playing and handling those defensive roles. But it opens the door now for him to play first-line power play with the likes of Zegras, McTavish, the youngsters over there. So solid pick, absolutely. Sticking with the Ducks, of course, my X factor is Mason McTavish. Like we talked about, there's plenty of young talent developing in Anaheim. They just added, the second overall pick, Leo Carlson, who of course will not be playing there this year, presumably, unless, something happens to fall down or he has a tremendous or had a camp, but I didn't see, maybe whatever, you name it. But I'm going to say he's not going to be there this year. McTavish has only played in 89 career games, so he's still fresh in the league. But the biggest thing that I notice is, like, especially in World Juniors and even playing in like the competitive World Junior Championships, going back in OHL, like that guy's a boy amongst men. He's a big dude, very strong, size is massive, has that kind of leadership ability that he's demonstrated over the course of his junior career. Very successful junior career, as we've touched on, World Junior Champion. Obviously, we all recognize and remember that massive game-saving play that he made on the red line there.
Ridiculous.
In overtime to keep that game alive. And of course, was it Gunther that went down and scored the overtime goal?
No, it was the kid from Columbus, Kent Johnson.
Ken Johnson, you're right. So regardless of which, anyways, that's beyond the point there. Did you know McTavish suited up for 4 different teams last year? Played in the NHL with the Ducks, the Gulls in the AHL, and then he played in 2 OHL teams. He was in 4 different dressing rooms last year, which
Wow.
is, tough for any player. You're constantly on the move. You're constantly making new teammates or getting used to it, trying to find your steps, and it just wasn't there for him. So I'm expecting him to find that level of comfort, knows where he's going to play, hopefully a full 82 in Anaheim, and, the rest of his career potentially as well. Anything
Yeah.
else on the
Good.
Ducks?
No, that's a good pick. Like you said, upcoming team. I'm excited to watch them play. Obviously, I don't think they're going to be even sniffing playoffs, whether or not they'll be in the bottom three. But hey, keep building on the young talent. There's some really good talent coming in from college next year. Celebrini and he signed with BU as well. I can't. I'll come back to it, but just an opportunity to keep building on that future, and they're going to be a dangerous team in about 5, 6 years.
100%. Moving on here, next team in the Pacific Division, the Calgary Flames. Obviously, a little bit of a disappointment last year. Huge expectations with the big trade with Huberdeau and Kachuk, of course, bringing in Uyghur as well. A lot of expectations. It didn't seem to work out, really fit well chemistry-wise with Sutter as the coach. Of course, they've transitioned now. New coach, new fresh season. Who's your X factor for the Flames?
It was a recent trade that actually went down, sending Tyler Toffoli to the Devils. In return, they got Igor Sharangovich, and I actually like this kid. Young stud on the wing. He's fast. He can move the puck. He sees the puck well in the offensive zone. I think he's going to fit really nice in that top six. I believe he had 15, 20 goals last year for the Devils, but just to be able to click with probably Nazem Kadri as his centerman, I think he's going to do just as much damage, if not more. And I think he's going to be a really good fit for this Calgary Flames lineup for this year.
Yeah, I mean, whenever I seem to watch the Devils, I just notice right away he had that speed. The Devils lineup seems to kind of be full of speed, of course, and just kind of producing that offense. So I don't think that's going to hurt the Flames by any means. I think that's a really solid pick. He should
Mm-hmm.
theoretically see top 6 minutes as well. So that's not a bad thing for his fantasy output or even just in general to help the team. So 100% agree with on that one.
Yeah.
Sticking obviously with the Flames is my pick here. I'm going with Dylan Dubé.
Mm,
I love the way that this kid plays. He works so damn hard out on the ice. You never see him take a shift off, gets pissed off if he loses a board battle. You can see him get chippy and grindy in front of the net between whistles. May not be the sexiest player offensively, may not try and go down and dangle the team, or dangle everybody. Like, he's not going to do flashy stuff, which is my type of hockey player. I love that kind of chip and chase, win those battles, cycle when needed, be in the right place at the right time, take one for the team with shot blocks, etc. He's one of those guys that you just a locker room guy, as I always like to joke about, that you just want and need in your dressing room. And I think he's just a huge chemistry puzzle piece that fits together perfect for the Flames. Their desperate
mm-hmm.
need for a bounce back year on the offensive side. Obviously, we touched on Huberdeau, not basically cutting his points in half last year from a little over 110 to 55, I think, which just
Yeah.
simply isn't good enough. Their defense should contribute very solid offensive numbers. Hannafin's still back there. Anderson's back there still. They got a lot of guys on defense that can move the puck and produce as well too. So that should theoretically keep them in the defense, keep them less in the defensive zone, and kind of keeping that transitional play moving solid. 45 points last year. I believe he's actually been consistently producing a career high every single year he's been in the show. So even too, if you can get a 50 to 60 point campaign out of him, I think they're going to be laughing. Truthfully, he's not a driver
Mm-hmm.
of their team in terms of leading the way offensively, but if he can chip in secondary offensively and even too potentially from a third line role, if he does happen to go down there, I think that's exactly what they're going to need and want to get them to that next tier of offense that they should be in. And I could kind of, see a full bounce back year if Markstrom continues to, have a more consistent path and not have an off year again for the Flames to get right back into the playoffs. And I think Dubé is going to be a big part for that success that they're going to have this year.
Yeah.
You
I
got
like
anything
that
else
pick,
on the
man.
old Calgary Flames there? I'm just having a quick peek as well, just so you do know. Sharon Govich had 13 goals and 17 assists last season, but he did, however, have 24 goals and
That's what I'm
22,
thinking of.
24, and 22 in the 21-22 season.
That's
So
the year I'm thinking
technically,
of.
capable of scoring 20 some odd goals. He's going to get
Yep.
a bigger chance this year in Calgary, and I think
Hmm.
with a similar minded offensive group, going from the Devils to the Flames, I think I
Hmm.
like his chances there too. Up
Yeah.
next, staying with the Battle of Alberta on this one, moving over to my Edmonton Oilers. Let's see it. Let's hear it. Who you got
Ooh.
as the X factor for the Oilers? And please don't say McDavid.
McDavid. I'm kidding.
McDavid is
uh,
basically two bodies in one.
I have Connor McDavid's Erie teammate, Connor Brown. I got the other Connor. Recently acquired by the Oilers. As we know, Connor Brown did play with McDavid when they were back in junior at the Erie Otters. I
Captain
believe
Connor.
I was going to say Captain Connor at the time. I'm sure McDavid learned a lot from his leadership styles. Now he gets to learn. He gets to learn a little more now from the other Connor. So there's just back and forth. So speedy winger. He's going to be able to keep up with McDavid. I think this is going to be a perfect fit for this top line. I actually think Brown's going to score between 25 and 30 this year. If he stays on that top line, yes, I swear to God, he's gonna fire it up out there. Especially like you look at Hyman. Hyman put up some decent numbers too, but like Hyman exploded offensively when he played between either Draisaitl or McDavid. Even if Brown slips to that second line and plays with Draisaitl, he's still going to produce some very good numbers, and hopefully doesn't play out of a contract. I don't know how long his contract's left, but hopefully it doesn't explode too much where he's now playing out of a contract in Edmonton. But like I said, this is going to be a good fit for this Oilers team. Solidify that top six, and like we've mentioned, Oilers going to be a top team in this division and potential for hoisting Lord Stanley. So he'll be a big part of it.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, big thing like you touched on with comparable to Zach Hyman, right? Is like I always make that ongoing joke of, Don Cherry basically saying, keep your stick on the ice, right? You look at what Hyman was able to do last year, and a large part of that was just simply putting the stick down on the ice and just having McDavid just pretty well bank one in off his stick, right?
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm just trying to give a quick focus here.
it's all
Losing
good.
losing sights here.
It froze and looked like you were just absolutely smashed. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was my mind just having a little blank on that one. But yeah, I completely agree. I think he could have a similar role to what Hyman did last year. I like the way that they both play in terms of like sort of a takeaway giveaway ratio. I think they're both very solid defenders. They're going to be able to take that puck away, getting their sticks in lanes, all like the small stuff that every coach loves. Not
yeah,
sexy in terms of being able to, produce 100 points, but I think they bring those intangibles to a team that's, I think, ready to compete or has been ready to compete, and I think that they're a good fit, so to speak. Brown too.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm gonna go with a drafted player by the Oil, unlike a signing there. I'm going with Dylan Holloway. A lot of people
Ooh,
don't, forget about this kid. 14th overall, like pretty high draft pick in his draft year in the 2020 class there. He's a real
mm-hmm.
wild card though. He's had a couple
Yeah,
chances already to play there. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of an issue last year, of course, with their roster and who they could have. So he had to get sent back down to the AHL a couple times. Unfortunately, with the secondary stint just before the trade deadline, he went down in the first game he played in. He blew out his shoulder. So he had a
mm,
season-ending shoulder surgery last year, which limited him to, of course, valuable time getting experience in the A or even in the NHL, but also to miss the playoff run with the Oilers. Of course, winning one series last year against the Kings, losing in the second round. So he wasn't able to get that playoff experience. He posted 35 points in his final or in his 23 games during his final year at U of Wisconsin. So the guy can score, knows how to bury.
yep,
He's a big body, very, very fast as well. He kind of looks like McDavid if you were to just put them side by side. They have that same kind of stride style. They look similar out there, just not with the puck. Um,
yeah,
but like I said, if he can kind of find his stride right now, I think he's scheduled to play on their third line. If you can kind of get him going, I think realistically, if he finds his way, just like Brown, just like Hyman, you get him a chance up in the top six, whether that's Nugent Hopkins dropping down or even Evander Kane, you name it, one or the other. if you find him a chance or even get him some power play time, I think realistically you're looking at a guy that could produce with the best of them and be a mainstay for the next 5, 6 years in that top six with the Oilers. He's just got to get his confidence and just kind of get that drive in. That's going to make him that next level elite, player that he's just not there just yet. But and like I said, it could be coming this year.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah.
All right, moving away from the Oils, going out west. We're gonna go further west, down south, going back to Cali, with the Los Angeles Kings. Who are you taking as your X factor for the Kings?
Yeah. Kings are an interesting team. Acquiring Pierre-Luc Dubois in the offseason to solidify their down the middle might be one of the strongest down the middles in the entire NHL. Um, but I'm going to be going on the wing here, and I'm going to take the young kid. I'm going to take Quentin Byfield. I
Love
think
it.
this is his opportunity to shine. He's a big power forward. He may not be the flashiest player on the ice and put up all the points, but he does the little things right. He's going to work on both sides of the ice. 200-foot game. He's going to battle in the corner with his size. He just has to, obviously, almost like Holloway, he's got to build that confidence, uh, being able to hold the puck. He's a number 2 overall pick for a reason. Obviously, Scott's like what he sees in junior. And I've been seeing on a lot of line combos of him possibly playing on that top line with Kopitar and Fiala. It'd be a great opportunity for him to learn from one of the best two-way centers in the NHL, and to drive his game to that next level. So a kid from Newmarket is awesome to see, as I've grown up there. So it'd be awesome to see him succeed, like obviously the other kid from Newmarket and Connor McDavid. So
I thought they were both from Richmond Hill.
fuck off.
All right. Yeah, love that pick. I mean, I'm big on him too. I think there's a few guys that are going to break out this season for the Kings. I think that, like I said, the regime of Kopitar, Doughty, those days of Jeff Carter, Mike Richards, like all those days are gone. Of course,
Yep.
Kopitar and Doughty are still, elite players in the league, but I think it's
Yep.
time for that regime to sort of start transferring over to come, a couple other franchise players. And I think I'm going to go with my guy who I really feel is going to be that next franchise player for the Kings, and that's Adrian Kempe. Something about
Sick
this
player.
guy, I don't know
Sick.
if it's just from me always watching him when they play the Oilers. The guys, it's like the Ovi days whenever he would play Tampa. Ovi would just always score goals. It's like
Yeah.
this. I'm not comparing Ovi to Kempe, but I'm just saying, like, whenever Kempe's playing against the Oilers, he scores a goal. Or even when
He's
they play in the
locked in.
playoffs the last couple seasons, like Kempe's been arguably the second or third best player in the entire series. And it's tough to outperform McDavid and Draisaitl when they're putting up 2 points a game. But just looking at it again, I mean, 67 points last year in the regular season, very respectable. He followed that up as easily, and I will stand by this, easily the Kings' best forward, best player all around, I would say. 8 points in 7 games. Guy's just got a lethal shot. He's a big
Mm-hmm.
body, and he's just super good at finding that little space, sort of whether it's in that pivot spot just inside the trapezoid where you kind of just need to have that quick release, or even two, just working from that half wall down to the red line and working in. He demands respect with his shot. He's got a crazy finishing ability, like I said. I wouldn't be surprised if this kid scores 35, 40 goals this year. I'm putting it close
Yeah.
to 40. I really do think he will. He's going to be one of their best go-to options. He's going to play power play. And like I said, when it matters most, he steps up. And that's a big thing to have. It's a tough intangible to have, is that when the time counts, I'm going to step up and prove it, right? He's got that
Yep.
clutch factor. So I think that's a big thing, like I said, with Doughty and Kopitar being on that back nine. I touched on it a couple minutes ago. Someone needs to step up and be that leader, right? I truthfully believe Byfield's a great pick too. Kempe's also a good look. Of course, with just getting rid of Dubois, Iafallo comes in, and I'm terrible at remembering this trade, and you're always good. Velarde, no,
Sao Paulo.
Dubois just came in. So
Dubois is in
with
LA. Yes.
losing Iafallo and Velarde,
Velarde.
I
Yep.
think you need a couple guys to step up. Of course,
Yep.
Dubois is good to help out with that second line role. And of course, you got Deneau there, who's just a nasty shutdown third line center, which is tough to believe that he's your third line centerman. So
Yeah.
yeah, I really do. Just sticking back to it, X Factor, Adrian Kempe, he's gonna be a point per game player this year.
Yeah. I like that pick,
Anything
man.
else you
And
want to add on LA?
yeah, a little bit. Like it's a great pick, honestly. Andre Kempe, he's nasty. I mean, obviously, you don't like to hear it as an Oilers guy, but like LA is looking dangerous this year. Them,
For sure.
Vegas, Edmonton, that top three. I don't know what order that top three is gonna be. Like, I still think the Oilers are probably gonna be number one, but oh my God, are they gonna be battling those division rival games? It's gonna be nuts. They're all gonna be playoff games. It's gonna be crazy. I'm
100%.
excited though. Love that kind of hockey.
And for those of you that are listening here and did listen to the bold predictions, or maybe have not yet listened to the bold predictions, I predicted, Jordo did, for it here first, I'm predicting that all 5 teams out of the West are coming from the Pacific Division.
Yep,
So, or at least, excuse me, sorry, let me re-say that. The 2 wild cards are coming out of the
we'll be in the
Pacific Division.
Pacific.
I think
Yeah,
5 teams from the Pacific are going to make the playoffs this year. So wouldn't be surprised. Like you said, it's a hammer fest, just like the Atlantic with the Leafs and Bolts, Lightning, everything with the Bruins that happened last year, everything. So I don't know. We're just going to have to see what happens here, right? Moving on then, I guess, with Kings, you're going to wrap up on that one there.
yep.
Staying out west there. We're going to go a little further south, I believe, or north to the San Jose
I don't even
Sharks.
know.
I don't know, but we're going to swim to the San Jose Sharks. See what I did there? I'll let you go
Huh.
first. X Factor for your Sharks. Who you got?
There's none. They're terrible.
They are
they're just,
a rough
they're
team.
just. This is a tough. This is after the departure of Erik Karlsson and Timo
Meyer
Meyer.
last year.
Oh, they're just hardcore rebuild. Anyways, I went right off the board with this one. This is like a really high risk play, but getting a refresh to start a new beginning, I guess we'll call it, is Philip Zadina,
Mm-hmm.
coming from Detroit, former fifth overall pick. Highly doubted as a sniper who was going to just light it up 30, 40 goals. Like, that was his potential. Obviously, he hasn't had that fit. I don't know if it's just the confidence or just maybe the locker room he was in. He seemed pretty cocky when he was drafted. I forget he was chirping someone in his first year about just lighting him up. I think it was someone before him. I could be totally wrong, but anyways, no, this kid's got potential. He's got the shot. I think it's just confidence, to be honest with you. Like I said, hopefully he can find a new beginning in San Jose, and obviously there's lots of opportunity there because there's not really much going on, especially in the top six. You got Hurdle and Couture. Couture's probably on his back nine, but Hurdle's still, I don't know. I think he's 29 or 30. Hurdle, maybe I could be wrong,
I
but
probably close to
um,
that. Yeah.
be able to play maybe on the wing with Hurdle. Maybe they'll find a connection there, and he can relive and become the player he's supposed to be. And then maybe the Sharks have a little bit of light, some talent to watch other than maybe just Hurdle and Couture. So kind of excited to see what happens there. Obviously, with a team that's going to probably finish bottom three. Kind of excited to see what Zadina brings to that lineup.
Yeah, I agree. So clarify, Hurdle's 29, Couture's 34. So they're not
Mm,
necessarily old by any means, but they're definitely experienced veterans at this point.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I'm just gonna kind of relay right off of that and go right into my X factor. You named it right away there, Tomas Hurdle.
Okay.
Um, I've got the same thing, man. Like, they're absolutely in rebuild mode, getting rid of Meyer, getting rid of Carlson. There's a huge shakeup to their lineup this year. They did bring in a few free agents. Anthony Duclair signed there. I think
Yeah.
Mikhail Granlund signed there as well. So it's a respectable lineup, but I don't think they're going to be out there making any flashy, moves, anything like that. Their decor, significantly less over the years, getting rid of Burns, getting rid of Carlson, right? Those types of things. They did bring in who was it here? Um, Sorry, never mind. I was thinking of someone else. I was thinking of Doomlin, but Doomlin did not go to the Sharks.
Seattle.
He went to Seattle. Yeah, I was thinking S. Regardless. Anyways, Timo Meyer or Tomas Hurdle, pardon me. Obviously a top 6 player. He's one of those guys
Hmm.
where I wouldn't be shocked, truthfully, this year if he has a solid enough start to the campaign that they do look to trade him off at the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Currently right now he's on I want to say he's got a 4 or 5 more years at 5 more years at 8.137 roughly, so just over 8. I think that's a player that could easily get traded at this deadline to help in a playoff contending team. He's got a previous career high of 74 points. That was back in 18-19. That was when you had Thornton, you had Pavelski, you had
Yeah.
Burns, and all those players that were basically going for their last contending chance, so to speak. Obviously, like we said, a playoff appearance, very, very unlikely for San Jose. I really do think that they're trying to just get through this season, see what they have, play out the rest of any of their contracts if they need to make a few shakeups, and just maybe try for a top 5 draft pick. Um, Hurdle's obviously going to need to go to the next level if they do want to compete for playoffs. But like I said, you just never know in this league. Realistically, you got some solid forwards. The defense needs a little bit of help. Capo Kakinen in net too. So, and Mackenzie Blackwood. So, you know what I mean? There's a little bit of
Oh yeah,
potential
he's
with a
there.
bounce back option in Tendy. And like I said, with that, Pacific Division being so strong and tough offensively, it's going to be tough for San Jose to compete. But like I said, I wouldn't be shocked if Tomas Hurdle steps it up, knowing that he could very well be playing for a chance to get traded in a contender team, and that might boost his confidence and get him going a little bit more. Anything else on the big bad San Jose Sharks?
Yeah, I got one more thing to
Emphasis
add.
on emphasis on the bad.
The bad, the BAD bad. Uh, One little bright spot, I guess, as Sharks fans can look at is their newly fourth overall pick in Will Smith, uh, coming straight out of U.S. development camp. Sorry, hard words are hard. Setting a record, he had 127 points in 60 games in the U18 team. That is insane. A lot of points. I believe that is number one. I'll fact check that later on, but I'm pretty sure that's number one in U.S. development camp, which is, the guys I've gone through there is like Jack Hughes, Austin Matthews, Jack Eichel, big names in the NHL now. So hopefully he can transition that success into San Jose, and maybe they've got their, future number one.
Yeah, 100%. Real strong point on that one there. I actually forgot that he did go there. I was big on him at the draft. I
Yeah,
can't lie, I never really watched much of his actual games, but just based
yeah,
on like the highlights and what they were showing, a lot of what they were saying about the kid, I really like, and I think he's got some good potential. And obviously, he's in a good landing spot there. Sandals and slippers every day, going to the beach and then to the arena, and then obviously learning with some pretty strong caliber players in Couture and those type of guys there. But it could be a couple years before he's really in the league, making his impact, right?
yep, absolutely.
Moving on here, going a little more north, staying a little bit south of the border, but we're gonna go with the newest team in the NHL. Not so new anymore, definitely recognizable in terms of even a competitor at this point, the Seattle Kraken. Who you got for your X factor for the Kraken?
Yeah, great team. I think they surprised a lot of people last year and taking out Colorado in seven. Big upset. Playing and going, holy shit, Seattle won. And like a couple buddies are like, what the hell is going on? Anyways, it is crazy, but you have to look at their lineup. They're a pesky team. They're willing to work hard. And to add to this lineup that I think is going to really solidify that back end is Brian Dumoulin. I know we kind of briefly talked about him earlier. This is a big loss for the Pittsburgh Penguins in Brian Dumoulin. He's a guy that can provide both sides of the ice, 200-foot game. And that's what's the one weak part about Pittsburgh is they're solely offensive, where Dumoulin was able to kind of help on that back end and help take the pucks out of the net basically. So with the Kraken, he can play along most likely with maybe Vince Dunn. Um, they'll be a great complement for each other, as Vince Dunn likes to jump in on that rush, where Dumoulin can kind of stay back and play a little more defense. So I'm excited to see what he brings to this lineup. But man, Seattle's getting good, and they are getting good fast. So another scary team to look out for in the Pacific. And I could see them fighting for a wild card spot, especially with how tough that division is.
Sweet. So yeah, man, my X factor here for Seattle Kraken is going to be Matty Beniers. Like I
Yeah,
said, entering their third season in franchise history, they've had a lot of good success early on. I mean, it's not like the Knights making it to the Cup Finals in year one success, but very strong contenders, like you said, beating the Avs last year is a huge deal for them. So yeah, like I said, the first overall pick in franchise history, Matty Beniers went second overall, right? I really do think he's going to enter superstar status this year. One of those guys
yeah,
where even when you watch him, he's got that swagger and confidence already, about which is tough to get in a player, especially that early on. But also too, with just being so young, it is very tough, especially nowadays, to lead your team and be the best, so to speak. And they already rely on him heavily. I think he's going to be a very strong candidate for making that progression toward that 60-70 type of point range, or even more. I mean, he did post 24 goals already last year, 57 points in 80 games. So realistically, you look at that, I don't think it's a massive ask for him to go from 57 up to 70 points, 75, and even to come close to 30 goals. They got a lot of good playmakers in that lineup. We already talked about how strong their defensive core is. So they're definitely going to be moving that puck solid, preventing goals, so to speak. So they're going to need those clutch time goals and production from those players. And I think Beniers has that potential to have that, elite scoring ability and just, hockey sense and hockey IQ. He's not necessarily going to super, blow you away superbly with his speed or finesse or anything like that. He's not a slow player, but he thinks the game very fast. And I think he can actually just
Mhm.
really think ahead very well, which a lot of players don't know how to do everything like that. Some players can think the game, but they're slow, or vice versa. I think he thinks the game fast and has a really high hockey IQ that gets him into the right place at the right time. A lot of guys can get to the right place, but they're a little too early, a little too late. He knows when to be there and why to be there. And I'm thinking truthfully that he's going to, just based on what I've seen early on, I'd like to see him produce that little bit more of a finishing ability. And if he even brings that up from 24 goals, even just to touch 30 goals, and he finds a couple extra apples here and there, I really do see that guy scoring 70 some odd points, 30 goals and 40 assists in his third year technically. I think his technically was his rookie year last year. But that'd be really solid. He's got 14 games of playoff experience already too, with a great run last year and 90 regular season games. So not much off of even like what we talked about with McTavish early on. So like I said, drafted second overall in 2021. He's still super young, but he's got a chance to be thrusted right into the lineup and right into the fire. And I think realistically, he's the kind of guy that's not going to bow down from this. And I think he's going to take this opportunity and run with it.
Yeah, I like that a lot, actually, that pick.
Anything else you want to add on the Kraken?
Dope.
Beauty. All right. So moving on then. Staying out west, moving a little north of the border here. The Vancouver Canucks. Who you got with the Vancouver Canucks as your X factor?
Yeah, Vancouver's got a lot of talent up front. For me, I took the young kid Andrei Kuzmenko. He had a pretty big year last year, considering he's been in Russia for the last uh, 10 years probably. He came out of SKA St. Petersburg last year, played 45 games for 53 points. He's playing with adults. Like, this kid is playing with like full grown adults, and he's putting up more than a point per game. So you knew he was ready to come overseas and play in the NHL. He comes in, steps in, he almost even rips up 40 goals in his first year in the NHL. He potted 39 and 35 in 81 games. So I think he's going to take a big step this year. He's playing with a lot of talent with JT Miller, Elias Pettersson, Brock Besser. Obviously, he's fit in really well, especially in his first year. Just a speedy winger who can, find the place at the right time. He's got a hell of a goddamn shot, and I'm excited to see what he can bring to the table for the Canucks this year.
Yeah, big no doubt. Just a big lanky body. Like I always joke about, like he's a rafter tickler when he gets his stick up in the air, just ready to rip his one timers. But elite shot, quick release, like you said, definitely need that if you want to score goals in today's NHL. Like Don used to
Yeah,
say, it ain't how hard you shoot it, it's how quick you can release the puck. Don has a lot of things to say, but
Donnie.
Donnie boy. Um, my X factor here for the Canucks. I'm going goalie Thatcher Demko. Obviously, I think a lot of people had really higher expectations for the Canucks last season. I think Demko arguably had one of his worst careers as an NHL goalie, and he needs to bounce back if they do want to compete for playoffs next year. He appeared in 32 games last year and 3.16 goals against and a 901 save percentage. Just absolutely not going to cut it in the Pacific Division if you're going and trying to outscore, the likes of the Oilers, or even trying to, go man for man against the Knights. Like, you're just not going to be able to do it. And I know that doesn't rely on just the goalie alone because he's not the one out there scoring goals, but he is the one
Hmm.
obviously that took a lot of the blame last year just based on him not keeping them in games, not making those timely saves, not producing, the right maybe not saying producing is not the right word, but not putting his rebounds in the right spots, not directing them to the corners. He's leaving a lot of fluffy rebounds right in that sweet spot there. Just really not giving his defense the best possible chance to help him out and clear out the zones. At times, just looked very small in his net, not a very small body. And for some reason, when he was sliding post to post or going from the top corner to down lows, like he would slide and drop his glove, drop his blocker every now and then, and just look really small in the net, just create a lot of space between his gaps, sorry. And I think realistically, it's one of those things where you just look at a lot on the off season. You kind of work at restructuring that, getting your confidence level back, just looking really big, really square to the shooters. Those are just simple
Yeah.
mechanical stuff that if you really try hard enough, I think Demko's got that natural talent, but he's also got the size that helps a lot because he gets hit by a lot of pucks as opposed to making saves. And that you need, especially in today's day and age where the puck moves so damn fast, especially deflections, those types of things are huge factors. So that's a big reason why I really think Demko is going to be their X factor this year. Like I said, we know that they're going to score a lot of goals. Where you name their forward group has a ton of potential. Quinn Hughes, sick defenseman, can produce a lot of offense on the back end. It's how much they can
Hmm.
defend, how much can they prevent goals against, and can they compete and match man for man with some of the best in the league. That's going to be a big difference for them. Like I said, obviously too, or I hadn't mentioned yet, but they also traded for Casey DeSmith, which takes a little bit of pressure off of Demko. He's not going to be forced to
Hmm.
play many back-to-backs. He may get a little bit more choice matchups in terms of who the coach wants to actually put out there for specific matchups. If they got a home and away or a home and home, you name it, that type of stuff where they can just kind of say, okay, I really need Demko to play this harder team or whatever, and you can kind of go from there. Is there anything else that you were looking at on the Canucks side of things?
Uh, no, all good. It's just obviously a question mark. They got a lot of key pieces in that lineup, but well, I guess we'll see what happens. I don't have them making playoffs, but they could. They could shock everybody and make a run with that team and caliber of players.
100%. I mean, like I said a couple times, I really do feel strongly that the Pacific's going to be well um, presented, if you will, in the playoffs. I really do believe that both wildcard spots are going to be filled in the Pacific, whether that's Calgary and Vancouver. Excuse me, Calgary and Vancouver or whomever. I wouldn't be shocked if the Canucks do find a way to get in there.
Hmm.
Um, Moving on here. Last but not least, the defending Stanley Cup champions. Why not end it with the Stanley Cup champs? Give them the credit where credit is due. The Vegas
Yep,
Golden Knights. Who you got here for the last team in our X Factors roundup of the divisions?
absolutely. First of all, their rings are wicked. They just got their rings today, and they are solid. They are
Yeah,
a wicked looking
very
ring.
sharp.
Yeah, so kudos to whoever made those because they look friggin' damn good. I'm gonna throw you a curveball here on my X Factor, and I'm gonna toss a little bit of a plural on that X Factors. I'm gonna put Vegas's fourth line as my X Factor this year. They were a wrecking ball in the run into the playoffs for their Stanley Cup champion win. And this fourth line consists of William Carrier, Nicholas Waugh, and Keegan Colser. I don't think enough credit is due to these three guys and what they brought to the table obviously for their run to the eventual winning their good old ringies here. So um, hard to play against. These guys are just piss and vinegar. They will rough you up in the corner. They'll shut down your top two lines or whatever line they're matched up against. Um, and they're just gonna hit you hard. They're gonna hit you hard, and they're just gonna put you out of your misery, basically. So, um, this is why I couldn't pick just one of these guys. They almost like it comes in a trio. So, I'm excited to see what these guys can bring next year. And like any team that's coming in matching up against this line, they're gonna have to really think different because they are gonna wear you out all game long.
Yeah, totally agree. They're one of the big reasons why Vegas was able to do what they did last year. Like you said, they're tough to play against. They're big team. They're very strong. I mean, obviously, we've noticed too, they got one of the best defensive cores in the NHL. And I don't think they have any defensemen below 6'4", it seems. I think they're all just absolute giants back there.
Mhm.
Also, too, just as of the other day as well, the Golden Knights actually picked up Grigory Denisenko from the Florida Panthers off waivers. Could be a sneaky little pickup.
Ooh, I didn't
Denisenko
see
was a
that.
first rounder from the Panthers 5 years ago or 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, hasn't really had a chance and hasn't really been healthy enough. So that's a sneaky little pickup that they had there that could very well work out for them. Moving into mine though, my X factor for the Golden Knights this year, Chandler Stevenson. So a lot of people don't realize that's his second cup already, right? He won the cup back in 18, I guess, with the Caps. Big part of
yep,
that Caps team when he was a little bit younger, but certainly a big team, important part of that team. Excuse me. He was a an elite player for this year,
yeah.
or this past season in the playoffs. He had 20 points in 22 games for the Golden Knights in this past playoffs. He's a crucial
Wow.
part to why they won their first cup in franchise history, just a 6 year in. Speed and
Yep.
offensive skill at the center position is arguably one of the biggest things that you need in today's day and age. Of course, you're playing with the likes of Mark Stone and whoever's on that other side. You're going to have a good chance to produce. And you know that when you're
Hmm.
playing with Stone, you better be able to get ready and turn up the ice because he's going to be able to turn those pucks over, get those takeaways, get the sticks into the lanes, and be a smart, all around, well responsible player. Excuse me. Wow. So that's like a big thing that I always look at is who's your line mates, who are you playing with, your defensemen, who are they? Like you just get look at everything that the Knights bring. It's just they've got so many areas covered. It's insane. Um, no shortage of quality players there is basically what I'm trying to say. He set a career
Yeah,
high in points last season, 65. I'm not saying that he's gonna necessarily top that. I think even a 60-point campaign could be a very strong, respectable year for him. But I also wouldn't be surprised if he throws up 5 extra points, tops the 70 mark. Very close to a point per game. I wouldn't expect him to throw up 80 points. If he does, the Knights are just even that much more lethal, right?
yeah,
Um, but like I said, a lot of that remains on whether or not they can be healthy. Of course, they just had that long season stretch. Not every team can do what the Bolts do or did, I should say, and really go back and forth or back to back, I should say, and just play so much hockey in so many years in a row. Like I said, Mark Stone missed 39 games last year. That left a huge gap in the actual regular season production from a lot of those players. Of course, that's why you notice him be almost a point. Stevenson, that is almost a point per game in the playoffs when he was playing again with Stone. He's a sneaky good player. As I always say, he's got plenty of experience. He's entering his 8th year in the NHL. Like I said, man, you don't sleep on the Golden Knights. Unfortunately, I wish that the Oilers had better outcome last year against them, but clearly the best team won
hmm,
last season. And I think, truthfully, like I said, Stevenson's going to be, you know, in a super comfortable role. He knows what to be expect. He's got a lot of potential playing with Stone and a few of those other guys. And I really believe strongly that they're going to have another great season and could even, push for another cup run next year.
yeah. No, it was a great choice. Great choice.
Anything else you wanted to add on the defending cup champs?
Uh, Not much. You covered a lot of it there. I'm really high on these guys. Like we said, they're a tough, gritty team to play, especially that fourth line. But even if you look at their blue line, everyone's like 6'1", 6'2", or over. So, big team to play against, and you just got to be, willing to go in those corners and not be afraid of these big men because they're just gonna, like I said, they're gonna wear you down. This is a playoff team and a playoff caliber team, and obviously they got the ring at the end of the day. So it'll be interesting to see what they can pull off next year.
100%. No, totally agree. And with that, I mean, we're into another season, dude. The season starts tomorrow. It starts this week for a lot of teams. I'm super excited. I know you are. It's one of those things where we hope a lot of these guys that we've projected to do well do well. We hope that you go. If you haven't listened, like I said, please be sure to check out. Did X Factors for the Atlantic, the Metro, excuse me, the Central, and the Pacific. Now, of course, if you listen to it all, check out all those. We've also just recently done a bold predictions too. We've put together a list of 5 each. bold predictions for what is going to happen this year, future bets, player projections, team projections, you name it. We talked about that, excuse me. If you need any other content, we've got a lot of cool articles going up. We're talking a lot of fantasy this year. We're going to be covering a lot more there. Of course, basketball season's just around the corner. Baseball season's just about, halfway through playoffs as well. A lot of good content coming from here. Of course, like I said, follow North Six Sports, all the socials, check out the media, check out our website, etc. This has been another edition of Soft Dump in the Corner presented to you by North Six Sports. Until next time.